going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares.
And
like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Well, I mean, I think you give a damn who's elected president. And
yeah,
I'm
especially if that president is a fascist. That's talking about putting people in camps. That's talking about, once again, terminating the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That's talking about, jailing his political opponents. Yeah. Like, that rhetoric doesn't scare people?
We talk about this every single... This is what
I don't think
I've been talking about this every night.
I don't think y'all have enough conversations about it. I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about, Donald Trump being a fascist.
Well,
am I wrong, Angela?
Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that.
I'm not. Look, I'm a huge fan of yours. Okay. But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black,
I've seen that. I've seen those roundtable discussions a lot. Now, that's bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody
I'm not saying you. I said the network.
He said the network.
I don't think anyone I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, is she black?
Y'all have never had
we have had, look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something. But I will just speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like are surrogates who come out and just spout talking points that they don't even believe, and those are people I try to eliminate from having ever on the air again.
I think no network has honest conversations about Donald Trump. Nobody's had honest conversations about Donald Trump since 2016. I saw last night they were talking about, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president, but it's always a double standard with Trump, whether it's with Hillary, whether it's, against Biden, now with Kamala. We talk about him being a threat to democracy, but we don't treat him like one.
I don't know what you've been watching, but I don't know of any Trump supporters out there or people who like him who are tuning in to me every night to try to get, to be validated in their opinions. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
think it's about validating. What do you mean, validating the Trump?
Well, you're saying that we're not, that I guess you're saying I'm not discussing all the things he is saying and doing and pointing it out and talking to, what John Kelly,
Welcome to Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. And my co-host, Ms. Kenneth, and we are watching the Fourth Estate crumble before our very eyes. I mean, the fact that Anderson Cooper tried to play the victim, he tried to act indignant, act like he did not know what Charlemagne was talking about. He knows darn well what Charlemagne was talking about. And I resent him for making me defend Charlemagne, because Charlemagne was right.
It's true. He was right. He made some very cogent points, even down to if we profess to be a country of democracy. I think we're just a country of democratic ideals sometimes, but we say we are a country of democracy. If we believe that and we say that, then why aren't more people really stepping up to the plate, as Charlemagne said, and defending our right to be this country of democracy? We allowed Donald Trump to get away with a lot, even down to, I'm going to have to say this, he should never have been last week in that McDonald's, walking around in that McDonald's where people's food is being prepared and served. He was not licensed to be there, but he was allowed to be there. So when we talk about Donald Trump, we skate on ice when we talk about him.
And that's everybody. The slogan from the Washington Post that says democracy dies in the darkness. Well, as of today, it's been changed to democracy is being murdered in broad daylight, because Jeff Bezos has fallen on the sword of fascism to support fascism. The Patrick Soon-Shiong from the LA Times, the New York Post this morning, posting their nonsense about supporting Trump. And my question along with several other people is what do y'all, a fascist destroys all of the media. They're on the front lines to be taken care of, sent to camps, put on trains, rounded up,
There's an article that I saw earlier today that said that Trump actually did go to his good friends at Fox News and asked them to go easy on him when they're, talking about this whole campaign season. So he those are his cronies. That's the 1%ers. Those are the ones when he does tax breaks. He doesn't do tax breaks for the people. He doesn't do tax breaks for the marginalized communities. He does tax breaks that benefit the 1%ers. He does tax breaks that benefits his folk in New York or Mar-a-Lago or wherever. So, of course, he can go to them and say, go easy on me. And of course, they're going to go easy on him.
And with that, I want to play this clip from Don Lemon. Now, I have been following Don Lemon. I don't agree with everything. You're not supposed to agree with everybody. You're not supposed to put yourself in a bubble to agree with everybody. But I have been following Don Lemon since he left CNN, and he has his own podcast now. And I like the way he engages, and I'm in the chat with him. He likes to engage and talk to the people. He's actually doing a tour around the country talking to different people. But I wanted to play this clip of him when he is addressing and talking about the overlords is basically what they are, the media overlords. So let's talk on the other side of this.
And who to vote for. Because of this, Jeff Bezos has forced the Washington Post newspaper he owns to not endorse a presidential race for the first time in 36 years. The paper had an endorsement of Kamala Harris already ready to go until the paper's owner nixed it. That's what the staffers are. Not long after that, the Washington Post's editor-at-large resigned over the paper's non-endorsement. This is one day after the same thing happened at the Los Angeles Times. Its billionaire owner as well nixed an endorsement, and then the Los Angeles Times editor, resigned after the owner blocked a presidential endorsement of Kamala Harris. The Washington Post's motto is, democracy dies in darkness. Yes, it really does. When corporations own media sites that have to do journalism, they should let the journalists do their jobs, not the corporate overlords.
We have spoken about this on a couple of our past podcasts as well, and I couldn't find the episode, but I'll look it up. Or if anybody listening out there will just kind of go through our playlist, because I have all of our podcasts under one playlist. This is for the Los Angeles Times yesterday, when then the owner, we'll get to that, but nearly 2,000 Los Angeles Times subscribers canceled their subscriptions to the paper, citing editorial content reasons after Patrick Soon-Shiong, the paper's billionaire owner, refused to let its editorial board endorse Kamala Harris for president. And that was just on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, his daughter got on Twitter today, and she's whining and crying because they see all these cancellations. Not only are they canceling their subscriptions, that now people, especially for the Washington Post, they're canceling their Amazon Prime and Amazon, which they should, you can live without Amazon Prime, but I don't tell anybody what to do, but I like seeing that part. But yeah, so all these people are canceling their subscriptions, and he's still making excuses. He's still not taking responsibility, which if he wants to burn his paper to the ground, I mean, those are his billions.
So 2,000 cancellations is impressive. Back to you spoke on the New York Post also. I looked it up. New York Post has a grand sum of 146,000 in circulation. That's it, 146,000. So it will really be good if 30% of them cancel their subscriptions also. But it's a very conservative newspaper owned by the Murdochs. What's his name? Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch.
And all of his downline descendants. So I doubt that it'll happen, but it would be really good. And I'm just confused as to how they stay in business with 146,000 in circulation. That's really basically nothing. So, but Donald Trump again, they know what they're doing. If Donald Trump makes it back in office, you will see he will take care of every single one of them. And like Charlemagne said, I would not be surprised if Donald Trump does not come up with a way, AKA Hitler style, to toss anybody into prison or some camp somewhere who he knows has disagreed with him.
Okay, we're back after some technical difficulties. And Miss Kenneth, finish your thoughts. Do you remember what you were saying?
I have no idea.
Okay, so we were talking about the news media, the billionaires. So the resignations. Let's see, Los Angeles Times sees resignations and loss of subscriptions after the owner blocks Harris endorsement, and Washington Post, they're seeing the same thing.
I think that that's a good segue into something larger. I don't know what their circulation is, but if the circulation is, you know, 500,000, and you could every day get 2, 3, 4,000 people to just cancel their subscriptions. That's great. Um, it's those folk who are closet folk who don't want to stand up and do the right thing. At least these two folk who just up and resign their jobs. I'm sure they'll find other jobs, but they up and resign their jobs. Kudos to them. And Charlemagne made a really good point when he talked about Colin Kaepernick, because black people said they were not ever going to look at another football game. They were not going to support football. They weren't going to go to any more football games. They were not going to buy any tickets to go to any football games. That was the shortest commitment, if you want to call it a commitment, ever. They were like, I gotta have my football. I'm getting the football, Jones. I just gotta go back and look at some football. I'm missing football. So if you are ride or die, and this brother still has not been back on the football field, and that was what it was about. When he gets back on the football field, we will resume looking at football, and we will support football. These two editor types resign. They quit their jobs, and hopefully they have a little savings or something, but kudos to them. And I think more folks should just be straight up and say, we don't support Donald Trump. And if you're going to make me say I support Donald Trump, or I'm going to be neutral, then I don't have to be here.
Well, I'm going to interject and add someone asked me on Facebook about other options, and if you know of any options, or where they could go other than the corporate media. I have some names of journalists: Qasim Rashid, Ahmed Baba, and Extreme Arturo. They are on Twitter, and they have a Substack newsletters. And I'll flip this around so you can see there's another journalist here that added some names. So this is a journalist that says, I am not one of the 57 most powerful people in media. His name is Hamish McKenzie. And he is writing here about the New York Magazine biweekly, about that's like the history, but he's basically talking about how the media is bowing down to the fascism of Trump. And he has a list here. I'll have the link also in the description box for you to read yourself. But he has a list here of other Substack writers, independent publications, and journalists that do really good work. Let's see: Rachel Carton, Drop Site News, The Free Press, Zato, Matthew Iglesias, Hunter Harris, Notes from Auntie's Desk, Emilia Patrica. And I apologize if I'm butchering the names, but I think, and also Trump's niece, Mary Trump. She has a podcast as well, and she does newsletters on Substack. And so there are other options. And then if anybody else thinks of any, just put it in the comment section. Let us know. But I'll have that link to that Substack too, so people could read and get other options. Because I mean, we have to cut them off. We just have to cut them off at the ankles, because we have no choice. So, what are your thoughts on the possibility of what Vice President Harris can do if she wins the election? What can she offer?
As far as
Hmm?
what can she offer as far as what is concerned?
Like some regulation or something, maybe for the media, because they seem to be taking us off the cliff towards fascism.
So if we want to be honest with ourselves, the only way the president has power is if the president gets her pen and some stack of White House letterhead paper and proceeds to craft executive orders, because anything else has to be legislated, and we have to be honest with ourselves. So if even in Congress, if on the Senate side it's 50, even if it happens to be 51 Dems and 49 Republicans, some things are automatically going to become two-third majority approval to get passed. And if she does not have that level of relationship with her Congress, it is not going to happen. So as far as I am concerned, if she wants to try and, put the screws on them, then she's going to have to go the executive order way. And, I think she needs to be careful of how she does that, because the last thing you want to do is look like you're doing exactly what Donald Trump said he was going to do if he got in office. If he gets in office, he's going to have vendettas against people who went against him. So she just needs to, if she wants to go in that route, she just has to be careful.
And so also the Naval Academy was supposed to have a speaker. Her name is Ruth Ben-Ghiat. She's a professor of history and Italian studies at New York University. She writes about fascism, authoritarianism, propaganda, and democracy protection. So she was supposed to speak at the graduation or for the Naval Academy. The Heritage Foundation got involved, and they pressured them to have them cancel her speech. I mean, what does that say?
So, to be honest, to be real honest here, the collegiate world, college campuses should be where you get to create the foundation that you take with you when you graduate. And that foundation should be, teaching you how to stand up for what's right, teaching you how to go after the real story and present to the public the real stories. But as we have seen quite extensively, so with what's going on in Palestine, the universities, especially the ones that have the big dollars and they charge a lot of tuition, and they have the more highly esteemed alumni and endowment funds, they are calling the shots. And as they call the shots, they are also stifling what our teen, our next generation down line who are in college. They're stifling their abilities to be able to develop what needs to happen so that they can take those batons and run with them and actually stand toe to toe and fight for the continuation of what we are saying we need in order to dismantle racism in its many forms and to actually at some point level the playing field for all of us, regardless as to the color of our skin.
And I was one of those that had no idea until October 7th. And I had no idea that colleges were invested in selling bombs and everything like that. Like, I went to college, I didn't finish my college, but I went and come from a family of educators, but I had no idea the depths of universities invested in genocide. I'm just
So you say that, but I don't think you really mean it, because if you look back during the era of the institution of enslavement and in the era of the institution of slavery, all of those colleges then actually were able to sustain themselves on the backs of slavery, the enslavement of our ancestors, i.e. Georgetown University, and the sale of at least 272 enslaved folk because they were about to, have to shutter because they didn't have the money to continue. So they sold our ancestors for the benefit of educating those white males who were in those institutions. So not a whole lot has changed as far as I am concerned. It's just more subtle and you don't see it. But if you look at athletics, for example, football is a good one. The student athletes get nothing from being student athletes and winning game after game after game. But your universities pull down big dollars from collegiate sports. So it's still there, and we just don't give a lot of thought to the different ways it's there now, as opposed to back in the day when universities were big into the institution of slavery.
Well, I'm back, and Miss Kiddes and I had technical difficulties tonight, both of us, and it had to do with our internet, so it was something that we couldn't control. But I wanted to close out. I'm going to go ahead and close out with this clip with Jake Tapper, and I would like for you guys to leave me your comments and feedback on the podcast. And if you would like to be on the show, leave us a voicemail, leave us a comment, email us, and let us know. And I hope to see you guys on the next podcast.
The two Republican leaders expressing concern about Kamala Harris calling Donald Trump a fascist. Let's show an example of Harris doing exactly what McConnell and Johnson are taking issue with.
She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist.
I'm sorry, the control room, that was actually Donald Trump calling Kamala Harris a fascist in September. Control room, are you ready? Please run the clip of Kamala Harris calling Donald Trump a fascist, which offended the Republican leaders.
Somebody's got to explain this to him. This is a radical left, Marxist, communist, fascist.
Okay, again, I'm sorry. That was Trump calling Harris a fascist. I apologize. Control room, can we get it together? Johnson and McConnell are very upset that Kamala Harris called Donald Trump a fascist. Please roll the clip.
We have a fascist person running who's incompetent, and we have a president who's not even around.
Guys, I'm trying to show the clip of Donald Trump being called a fascist. That's what Speaker Johnson and Leader McConnell are really worried about. And you keep running different clips of Trump calling her a fascist. Please, humor me. Humor me.
Authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Okay, so that was Donald Trump being called a fascist, but not by Kamala Harris. That is retired Marine General John Kelly, Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, coming to the conclusion that Donald Trump is a fascist in his view. Guys, she did say this. She said it here on CNN. Don't you have a clip from CNN? We have got to stop him, Milley said. You have got to stop him. By you, he meant the press broadly. Quote, he is the most dangerous person ever. I had suspicions when I talked to you about his mental decline and so forth, but now I realize he's a total fascist. Okay, so that was from CNN, but that was me reading a quote from former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley, who Trump appointed. Milley calling Trump a fascist in an interview with Bob Woodward. That wasn't Harris calling him a fascist. Control room, come on. I know we have this clip somewhere from CNN. Come on, show it.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Thank you. My control room going a little bit rogue there and making a point, perhaps.